Greetings and welcome to the video production of Manik Esahak Biswas, a prominent social worker and writer having the humanitarian professional and environmental activist. He possesses dynamic quality for writing good articles and standalone data-driven decision-maker. Today, we're diving into an explainer based on his crucial research, looking at a crisis that honestly goes completely unnoticed. When we think about climate change, we usually picture ruined buildings or melting ice caps. But today, we're looking at the deeply human, biological cost of this crisis in southern Bangladesh and how it's triggering these cascading health emergencies specifically for women and adolescent girls. So we know climate change melts ice caps, but how does it actually change the human body? We hear about extreme weather out there in the world all the time, right? But today we're really uncovering its profound, disproportionate impact on women. Like, how does rising seawater physically alter the blood pressure of a pregnant woman? Or how does a single flood permanently change the psychological trajectory of a teenage girl? These are the critical questions we're going to tackle today by looking right at the frontline data.
Here is our agenda for today. First, the climate frontline. Second, maternal health and salinity. Third, the menstrual hygiene crisis. Fourth, the mental health toll. And finally, number 5, cascading social consequences. Okay, let's jump right into part 1, the climate frontline, mapping the vulnerability. Just look at the sheer scale of the severe weather and flood zones on this map across Bangladesh. We're talking about over 10 million people in this coastal belt facing rising sea levels, cyclones, and just catastrophic flooding. And when these waters rise, they don't just, damage homes. They fundamentally disrupt human biology and the absolute basic resources needed for survival. Moving on to part 2, maternal health and salinity, the biological impact. Now, take a look at the really stark seasonal contrast in this table. Because of saltwater intrusion, pregnant women are literally forced to consume up to 16.4 grams of salt every single day from river water during the dry season. But during the monsoon, it's just 1.28 grams. That dry season sodium intake is astronomically higher than global health limits. But here's the tragic part. With fresh water being so scarce, these women just don't have any other choice.
So this isn't just an environmental issue anymore, is it? It's a direct biological trigger. The changing ocean is quite literally changing the blood pressure of expecting mothers, leading to major risks like preeclampsia, gestational hypertension, and even preterm births. The research from coastal Bangladesh shows this incredibly direct dose-response relationship between drinking the salinized water and severe maternal mortality risks. It's a real game changer, and not in a good way.
Which brings us to part 3, the menstrual hygiene crisis, dignity washed away. I want you to listen to the reality on the ground right now. This quote says it all. I was embarrassed to ask for sanitary pads. It feels like we're not supposed to talk about it, so I just used whatever I could find. Deeply ingrained cultural stigmas totally compound these disasters. When girls are displaced to these crowded flood shelters, they completely lack the privacy to wash or dry reusable cloths. And those social taboos, they prevent them from hanging them out to dry anyway.
So the hygiene crisis in these shelters becomes this huge, multifaceted problem. A lack of sanitation, intense cultural stigma, limited products, and absolutely zero privacy. Forced to wash cloths in contaminated floodwaters, women are suffering from severe reproductive tract infections and other serious diseases. The disaster strips away their home, sure, but it also strips away their fundamental health rights.
Let's move to part 4, the mental health toll, a gendered trauma. The data coming out of these flood shelters reveals a stark gender disparity. Look at this. An overwhelming 80% of adolescent girls suffer from PTSD, compared to about 61% of boys. Why such a massive gap? Well, for girls, the trauma of the national disaster is frequently compounded by the terrifying exposure to, or even just the fear of, gender-based violence in these unlit, totally overcrowded shelters. And depression rates? They follow the exact same heartbreaking trend. We're seeing 84% among girls. You see, after a disaster, traditional gender roles turn into a total pressure cooker. Women who suddenly have to travel miles further just to find non-saline water face this extreme physical exhaustion. Plus, they face increased domestic abuse if they can't fulfill their typical household duties on time. This relentless pressure just crushes their mental well-being. Finally, we arrive at part 5. Cascading social consequences, the ultimate toll. Let's take a second to compare these threats side by side. While rapid onset events like floods cause immediate, very visible trauma,
Slow onset events like waterlogging and salinity quietly but permanently destroy agricultural livelihoods over time. A flood might wash away a crop for a single season, right? But prolonged salinity poisons the soil entirely. Families who farmed rice for generations suddenly wake up to find their land completely barren. And this right here is perhaps the most devastating finding of all. Data linking environmental vulnerability in 15,000 adolescent girls proves that these slow onset events actually pose the highest risk for child marriage. Think about it. When a family's land is poisoned by salt, marrying off a young daughter is tragically seen as the only way to reduce their economic burden. The changing climate is directly stealing their futures.
So what do we do? Addressing this whole interconnected crisis requires immediate, highly targeted action. We absolutely need mobile health clinics, safe, well-lit temporary sanitation facilities that offer real privacy, and regional market systems that keep hygiene products affordable even when supply chains just totally break down. Breaking the cultural silence around these topics is honestly just as critical as rebuilding a damaged road.
This brings us to a huge question. How can we build climate resilience that protects not just the land, but the lives and dignity of the most vulnerable women and girls? We have to ask ourselves how global and local policies can actually evolve to become truly gender responsive as these disasters escalate. As the data has shown us today, climate change is absolutely not gender neutral. If our adaptation strategies only focus on seawalls and farming, without looking at maternal health care, mental health, and the safety of girls, we are totally failing the people carrying the heaviest burden.
To wrap things up, gender-responsive climate adaptation policies are absolutely essential to safeguard the health, dignity, and future of coastal communities. Protecting our environment and fighting for gender equality, they aren't separate missions anymore, they're the exact same fight. But it leaves us with something to think about. As climate disasters increase in the coming decades, will we just keep rebuilding infrastructure while ignoring the invisible biology of the people living inside it? Thank you for watching the video of Manik Esahak Biswas. Have a blessed day ahead and subscribe our channel to get more informative videos in future.